Mac Heads and Maniacs, we got a special guest tonight. I know y'all gonna love this. First Avalon, first Blue Note on KM Videos, y'all. So I want y'all to give it up for Cartoon and salute him for coming on this platform, man. Like so many thought would never happen. Cartoon, what's up, bro?
Oh, what's up, cuz? How you doing, homie?
I'm all right. So tell me, man, where you grew up at? What city was you born in and where you grew up at?
Homie, I was born in South Central LA, you know what I'm saying, right there on the east side. At one time, I think from the age of like one to 2 years old, I stayed in Inglewood for a hot second. But other than that, you know, cuz I've been on the east side my whole life.
Man, that's different, moving from Inglewood to the east side. How did that happen?
Basically, homie, I guess say money got funny. You know what I'm saying? When the ends stopped coming in, I guess a certain way, mom say, look, we got to go where we can afford it. And she went to the east side.
For the dime moves and the lokes, for the 6-4s on spokes, for the OGs that did a dime, came back around on parole, for the homegirls with the scrap game, little homies that gang bang, from Pelican Bay to YA, rearrange your mind frame. Yeah, I know what you've been through, shit you had to go tend to. Your mama gave birth on the turf, I know them killers you kin to. This for the lost generation, broke as hell, man.
Lifting weights and I was on swole, they start calling me Big Miz.
Original stutter box. Eastside Fighters, Avalon Bishop, Mill City Gangster Bloods.
Kev Mac video, you know this is for sure. Kev Mac video, open your soul.
This is from the beginning.
Was Pops in the house with you guys?
No, Pops got ghost, homie, when I was about 2 years old. And after that, you know, Moms was kind of single for a minute. Then my stepfather came in, and her and my stepfather, they was together for many, many years.
How many siblings do you have?
It's just me and my two sisters. One of my sisters, she a parole officer, and I got a sister, my sister Zena from A-Trey Hoop.
Okay. All right, so look, you lived in what neighborhood or what area?
Shoot. At first, when we first moved to the east side, we stayed right there on 40th and Hooper, right at the back gate of Jeff. This was in the early 70s. I don't know whose hood it was at that time. Eventually, I know the Villains was over there a little bit, and eventually the 30 Pyrus, when they did form up, they were kind of in that area, but it was Pyrus right there. And then we ended up moving on 51st and Avalon.
All right. About what year did you move to 51st?
We moved on 51st about 75, 76.
All right, okay. All right. So what schools did you attend?
Elementary school, I went to 49th Street Elementary School. Junior high school, I went to Carver. I didn't really do the high school thing too much because by that time YA had kicked in, and I was in and out of YA. The little bit of time I did attend high school, it was at Locke.
All right, look, when you start going to Carver, though, I want to know, was the gang banging going on in Carver?
Oh, yeah. Every day, all day. From the time we walked through the front gate to the time we left. You know what I'm saying? The Crips, we had the front of the school, and the Bloods, they had the back of the school. And everything in the middle was just getting them up on a daily.
What gangs all went there?
As far as Crips, it was predominantly 5 trays and 4 trays. 4 they said wasn't even out at the time. A few 5 Broadways went there, but those were the 3 main sets. Other than like stragglers from other sets that might have been coming down there, like you had a couple of 6 Deuces coaches might have went there, but predominantly it was just 5 trays and 4 trays. I went to jail in the 7th grade. Well, no. Then when I got out of jail, I went to the juvenile hall for a minute. Then when I got out of juvenile hall, I started going to a continuation school in Compton. At that time, it was called Echo Continuation. Exactly what street it was on, I couldn't tell you, but I know it was about 12 of us went to this school. And I know it had to be somewhere in Looters Park Hood because they used to come through the alley. We used to get into them in the alley a lot, a whole lot.
All right, look, when you start going to Carver, though, I want to know, was the gang banging going on in Carver?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Every day, all day. From the time we walked through the front gate to the time we left. You know what I'm saying? The Crips, we had the front of the school, and the Bloods, they had the back of the school. And everything in the middle was just getting them up on a daily.
What gangs all went there?
As far as Crips, it was predominantly 5 trays and 4 trays. Foduce, they said wasn't even out at the time. A few Fiduce Broadways went there, but those were the 3 main sets, other than like stragglers from other sets that might have been coming down there. Like you had a couple of 6 Deuce East Coasters might have went there. But predominantly it was just 5 trays and 4 trays.
And what was the relationships like that back then between all the Crip gangs?
Oh, back then, homie, that was in the 70s. We was good. You know what I'm saying? It was all good. You was throwing up the C. It was all right.
Do you remember a time when the 30 Pyrus came out, or was you already going to YA?
No, I remember when they came out. I was going to YA, but when I left in 79, they weren't out. When I got out in like 81, 82, they had just came out. So when I inquired about them, they said that they came out in like 1980.
Right. Did you know some of those cats?
Like some of the main ones, like the Twymans, some of the ones who originated, they said I knew them. And the youngsters, I didn't really know too much like that because that was too far down out my area.
The Twymans, what was they claiming? I thought they was outlaws. No.
If they weren't from outlaws, they were predominant in the ones who kind of helped start 30 Pyrus, though.
Yeah, because they was like on 30th and Wadsworth.
Exactly where they stayed at, I couldn't tell you, but
in that area, though.
Right. Oh, yeah. They was all up in there.
Yeah.
So, but that's right there on 30th. So, 30, 31st, 32nd. That's right there where the 30 Pyrus were at.
Right. All right. So, what year did you? So when you went to YA in 79, that was your first time being locked up?
That was my first time going to do time. I've been in and out of juvenile hall all the time, though.
You want to tell them who your cousin is from my area?
Oh yeah, Big Mumpy, cuz from Rolling 60. That's my first cousin.
All right. At this time, what was going on with Mumpy and Mumpy homeboys?
You know what? I knew Mumpy was gang affiliated, but as far as how it was going over there where he was at, because I know when I was younger, Mumpy like I think 2 or 3 years older than me. And when I used to go to my auntie's house, he would always tell me he wanted me to be from where he was from. And I was like, well, where you from? And he was saying, but my thing was, I was like, well, no, you from the West Side. And of course, in them 70s, the East and the West, the relationships wasn't that good. And I was like, no, homie, I don't want nothing to do with the West Side. I'm from the East Side. But as far as what was going on over there, I couldn't really tell you. All I remember was I had got out one time and Mumpy had got shot. And I walked in the house and Mom's was like, your cousin got shot. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. I'm like, by who? Of course she didn't know at the time. And so everybody was rushing to the hospital and going here and there. And right after that he got locked up.
All right, and y'all park is South Park, correct?
Oh, we from South Park.
Did the 4 trays and the 5 deuces hang in South Park?
The 4 trays, they would come down there to kick it with us. Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right, tell me about South Park, man. When you start hanging in there, and what other gangs hung in South Park with y'all?
Shoot, homie, when I started hanging in the park, the only gangs that were in there were Avalon, But see, when I came about, it was predominantly a businessman park. You know what I'm saying? You know, my hood, we descended from the businessmen. And they hung in the park and they hung in the in the liquor store parking lot. So, you know, the homies was there too. So, you know, when we came up, the homies had to rightfully, you know, get down with the businessmen to get the park. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Yeah, somebody was calling in. But anyway, yeah, the homies had to rightfully get down with the businessmen to get the park. So, but now that was like generations before me. They got the park. So by the time I came about, it was the whole South Park was a 5-tray Avalon park. The 4 trays, they would come down there to kick it with us because at that time they was like a brother set to us. And the Broadways, the 5 deuces, they would come in the park too and kick it. And you know, we used to get into it a whole lot because at one time the Broadways wanted the park because it was in the 50s and they never had a park. But we wasn't having it. You know what I'm saying? We used to rightfully have to get down every day about that park.
Since Broadway is on the west side of the park and Avalon's on the east side of the park, did y'all, you know, stay closer to Avalon? They stay closer to Broadway?
I could barely hear what you said. I think you were saying because the Broadways were on the west side, we were on the east side. That's park. True enough. But now, you know, park. At that time, I guess they figured because South Park was the closest park to it, and it was in the 50s, that they were just going to come bogart it. It wasn't finna happen, though, homie.
All right. Was the Playboys out before you went to YA? Or when you came
No. You talking about the Mexican gang?
Yes.
No, the Playboys didn't come around till about, I can honestly say about 83.
And they
Did you hear me? Somebody was texting.
Yeah, I hear you. And they just grew. They grew and grew, huh? Wasn't no other Mexican gangs right there by the park?
No, not at that time. It wasn't a lot of Mexicans in LA like that, the way they are now. You know, it wasn't jumping like that. The Mexicans, they didn't start rightfully coming about till like the mid and late 80s. Before then, it wasn't, only other thing over there, we used to have another black gang called 5-Ace Bumper Jack Crips. And, they ran with 5-tray. You couldn't tell us apart. If you seen us, you didn't know who was a Bumper Jack, who was a 5-tray. But about 1980, 81, we absorbed them. You know what I'm saying? They disbanded and everybody just became 5-tray.
Tell me about when Ozone came about, the 40 Ozones.
The Ozones? The 40th Streets, Ozone, they always been down there, but they were always just Ozone. They started kid with the homies real tough because the homies start going down there getting money with them. And, one or two homies, put it in their head. Well, cuz, look, if y'all kick it with us like this here, you might as well go ahead and, become Avalons. And I guess they talked about it, discussed it, and somewhere like in the 80, I'm going to say 84, 85, something like that, they went on and made that transition, and they became Avalons too.
When did the 4 Deuces come out? Are you old enough to remember when 4 Deuce Gangsters came out?
Oh, yeah. They came out in like 1980, like late 80, early 81.
And when does 4-8 Gangster become part of the gangster car? Wasn't they hustlers at first?
Okay. See, the 4-8s, when they start coming about, the area was really like no man's land, but they had a lot of dudes over there that wasn't a part of nothing. So when they start forming up, they initially wanted to be 4-8 Avalons. The main dudes from 4-8, they fathers are from my set. You know what I'm saying? So when they start coming around, they came to the hood, they came to the park, and they was like, "Cuz, check this out. We want to be 4-8 Avalon." Just so happens the homies that was around at that time was like, "No, cuz, if y'all gonna be Avalons, you got to be 5-tray." But they wanted their own identity. They didn't want to be 5-tray. They wanted to be 4-8. So the homies roughed them up, you know what I'm saying? Socked them up, beat them up, kicked them around. ran them back over there to 48th and told them, look, don't come back over here. So, with them being upset and pissed off about that, they said, okay, well, they became 4-8 Gangster Crips. And since they was mad at the homies, that's when they started hanging with the 4 Trays and the 4 Deuces.
Do you think that was a mistake not to let them?
That was a big mistake, a very big mistake. See, if I would have been on the street at the time, that would not have happened. If I would have been on the street, them cats right now today would be 4-8 Avalon, because like I used to try to preach to the homies from jail, cuz it don't make no difference what the number is. Long as they say an Avalon on the end, that's all that matters. And that's what it should have been. But like I say, I wasn't there. And the homies that was around at that time, they figured, they got the big head. Everything got to be 5 Tray. 5 Tray this, 5 Tray that. But, they pissed them little youngsters off. And we done turned around. We done lost 1 or 2 homies to them clowns too behind that.
So look, if their parents, some of them was from 5 Tray, that area was basically 5 Tray by default, right? Is that right?
What area? Where my hood is?
Where the 4-8s is, if their fathers was from 5 Tray.
You say if they hood would have been 5 Tray by default?
I'm saying before 4-8 came out, that was 5 Tray hood.
Not exactly where they are today. Now, if they would have been up on 48th and Avalon, yeah, that was our hood. Because see, 5 Tray goes from Vernon to Slauson. That's from Vernon to Slauson, from Maine to you could say McKinley now. They set right on McKinley and back. So the homies really at that time didn't really kick it over there that far. Some did getting their hustle on. So that's why I was saying that area was kind of like a no man's land.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean by default. But at one time, didn't 5 Tray go all the way to Central?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And who was your worst enemy back then? What moves was y'all fighting the worst?
Our worst enemy was the villains. But at that time, the villains and the Pueblos to us were the same thing. But now, the Pueblos, they never really gave us a big problem because they never really came out to projects. The only time we would really get into it with them is when we would meet up at Jeff or meet up at Carver. But now, us and the villains, it's been a running feud from day one all the time. I'm talking about, back and forth, back and forth. That was our main hated worst enemy.
Yeah, 5-6, right?
No, it was 5 Deuce villains. 5-6 villains didn't come out till like in the mid late 80s. They wasn't even thought about back then. It was just 5 Deuce villains then.
Okay. And so was Jefferson considered a Crip school at one point, or was it always?
Say it again. It's kind of low.
Was Jefferson ever considered a Crip school, or was it always?
No, I can't say that. From my experience, it was always more Bloods at Jeff than it was Crips. We would go there, but Jeff always been a Blood school because you had the villains going there. You had the Outlaws, you had the Pueblos, then you had like various other like miscellaneous Blood hoods that was going there because it was a safe haven for them. So when we went there, it was basically just the 4 Trays and the 5 Trays going there, and a handful of 5 Broadways. So it was always a problem.
Was the 40 Pyrus a problem?
You know what? I've heard of them because they used to have 40 Pyrus and they used to have Photos Pyrus. I couldn't tell you right today 2 of them named. I never really, noticed them, never really paid attention to them. I mean, I don't think it was over 10 members from each set at one time. To me, I don't know about them.
All right, so when you went to YA, your hood basically got along with all Crips or most Crips or what?
Yeah. When I went to YA, we was getting along with everybody. That's one of the things Avalon was known for. We got along with all Crips. Crip on Crip violence, we never really, we didn't participate in it. We didn't really understand it. We didn't want nothing to do with it. like I said, we would get into a lot of physical altercations with the Broadways about the park. But other than that, as far as shooting and going to all out war with another Crip hood, no, we didn't. We wasn't a part of that.
Let me go back a little ways. Do you know the founders of Fire Trey?
Oh yeah.
Can you give me a few names of who started Fire Trey?
Yeah, okay. You have, Avalon was first. Avalon was first and foremost. That was everything. Avalon went from Slauson all the way to Santa Barbara is, what they call what they call King Boulevard now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all that was Avalon. You know what I'm saying? And, the predominant at that time leader of Avalon was the homie Big Hurt, rest in peace. And as time went on, Four Treys adopted their name. They came first. They said they first started saying, okay, we Four Trey Avalon. And from that, the homies, my older homies, kicked it on 4-7 real tough. But the name 4-7 Avalon didn't sit right. So they thought of us, okay, well, we just going to be Fire Trey Avalon. So that's when, a lot of the homies like Spade, Reggie Brown, Henry Bound, you know what I'm saying? Fats, Doc Rob, a lot of homies. That's when they came with it. And from that point on, we was known as Fire Trey Avalon.
I used to hear Bull Capone's name a lot. What generation does he fall in?
Say it again.
Bull Capone, what generation does he fall under?
Bull Capone is my homeboy. Me and Bull Capone, we from the third generation. He come up with me.
All right. So did you heard of Black Johnny, right?
Yeah.
Was Black Johnny an Avalon?
Yeah, Black Johnny was an Avalon. He was he was an influential Avalon. And you probably could almost give like Black Johnny and Mad Dog and one or two other names, the originators of Four Trey.
Got you. So y'all got some cripping that go back to the beginning with Raymond Washington over there.
Yeah, Avalon is one of, I would like to, now my pride would make me say Avalon is probably the oldest set on the east side as far as when, we start giving each other names. But I can't say that, you know what I'm saying, because of course, you had the Castle Crips, avenues and stuff like that. But now Avalon and Castle Crip was real close at one time. That I do know. I got that info from the homies. But Avalon, the name, we adopted that name in like the late 71, early 72.
What's your relations with the Kitchen Crips?
Them the homies right there. Avalons and Kitchens, you know what I'm saying? We've been tied at the bootstrings since day one. We used to have something back in the day called the Mac Gang. Maine Avalon Kitchen, MAK. And it was like that for a minute, but Avalons and Kitchens, we've always been down.
Do you remember that there were some kitchens down there in like Southside Four Trey Hood? Kitchen Mo and them?
That's the homie Kitchen Mo. They they kicked it down that way as far as if they were setting up shop down there. I don't know. I know at one time Kitchen Mo used to kick it down there a lot though.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when that Southside Four Trey set came out?
You know what? That was new to me. The first time I'd ever heard of a Southside Four Trey was when I got out the pen in 95, 96, and I had a female stayed over there on like 21st and Central, and I would go over her house and she would like tell me, well, get in. You know what I'm saying? Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, they over here. I'm like, cuz, what you talking about? No, them fools way over here on wah. She like, no, the South Side. I'm like, the South Side, what is that? And when she told me, I'm like, well, goddamn, when they come out? When they came out, I couldn't tell you.
Mm-hmm. Look, a lot of East Side gangs got allies on the West Side. Do you guys have any gangs on the West Side you cool with?
Yeah, we you already know. Okay, as far as that go, us and 8 Trey Gangster, you know what I'm saying? That's like one of our main allies. The 5-1 Troubles, that's one of our main allies. And due to my surprise, since I've been out this time, the homies have allied themselves with the Hoovers. Kind of tough. How that come about, I don't know, but it is what it is. But we since like 1981, we've always been aligned with with the gangsters, with the A-Tray gangsters.
Mm-hmm. When the split happens, when the gangsters in the neighborhood cars start going at it, did y'all? What did y'all fall in that? Because I know a lot of y'all was, it wasn't no beef with the neighborhoods.
No, it wasn't. See, what had happened was when the 6 Souls and the gangsters went to war. You know what I'm saying? That right. I'm gonna tell you. In '79, when those 2 sets went to war, that pretty much was the end of Crippin' at its best. That war right there, as far as I'm concerned, that war right there pretty much destroyed the whole fabric of what Crip was, what Crip was meant to be, and what it had always been until them 2 sets went to war. Because no matter what you did, no matter what you said, as time went on, you were gonna choose a side. I mean, because in YA, you know what I'm saying, you would, make alliances with certain dudes from each side, and it just went that way. And it predominantly kind of went that way on the street because about 1981, the 6 O's and the 5 Deuce Broadways, they start kicking it real tough. And so, you know what I'm saying, it was like kind of fell in line. The A-Tray gangsters start coming over to our hood, and we start kicking it with them. Crazy D and all them would start coming to the park. You know what I'm saying? And the homies got cool with them like that. And it was just, internal turmoil. It went on and on. It went on and on. So, it was what it was. It happened how it happened.
Mm-hmm. When's the first time you went to the county jail?
My first time in the county jail was 1985.
And then you end up going to prison on that case?
Yeah, I went to prison.
What prisons did you hit? What level?
The first prison I went to was San Quentin. I went there 85, and I went home in 87.
Okay, so you was there 2 years or a little more than 2 years. Tretch and Evil was up there. Tookie was up there, and a bunch of CCOs was there.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Did you get hooked up? Did you get hooked up?
Okay, coming through the county jail. When you in YA, you heard a lot about certain stuff. Well, the first thing we learned in YA before even going to the pen was, all right, Crips do not get along with DGFs. That was the first thing that came down to YTS. And so the homies was like, what's up? Because what they would do, if you was cutting up in YTS, they would send you to Tracy on like a 90-day observation. And if your observation went correct, you would come back to YTS. So homies was coming back to YTS with all these crazy stories and this, and this. So we like, okay. So one of the homies came back, was like a homie named Twilight from 7-6. And he was like, well, listen, man, we don't get along with the BGF. So we like, what is a BGF? So, he explained it to us. So, by the time we left YA going to the prison system, in our mind, in my generation, it was like, okay, it's on with them. We don't get along. So by the time you hit the county jail, if you in the Crip module, you're going to hear about Blue Notes, CCOs. You know what I'm saying? Homies that it came down from the pen, they giving you the whole 411 on how you could become indoctrinated, you know what I'm saying? Different philosophies of each group. And, if you so choose to do this, do that, it's on you.